and in this video I'll be discussing one of my favorite topics. There's an overwhelming amount of what I refer to as spiritual science left to us from our ancient ancestors. Vague stories, what we would normally call myth from a single distant culture, would be easy to ignore, but these teachings and eyewitness accounts recorded throughout time are specific and consistently similar, and can be found on nearly every continent. These are some of the ancient connections in regards to extraterrestrial intervention in our spiritual development. For years now, I've been following a trail left by a group of angels, avatars, and extraterrestrials who have come to Earth from the stars at some point in our past to assist us in our spiritual development. The light body, sometimes referred to as the spiritual light body, spirit body, rainbow light body, or any combination of these descriptions, is what some would call a human soul or consciousness in our physical body, deliberately using their mind as well as specific practices to align with the energy of God, the source of creation within themselves. It is a heightened state of enlightenment, alignment, or blending with this higher energy. At the same time, it's the most natural and simplest form of human consciousness. It's the pure organic vibrational state that all babies are born into. It's the emotional, energetic state of being when you feel clear, happy, joyful, creative, easy, powerful, focused, alive, vital, healthy, ecstatic, and blissful. When we dissolve the qualities of a destructive ego, it's the state of being that spontaneously arises when we master our thoughts, emotions, energies, and the laws of the universe. In ancient Egypt, and in even older African cultures, they taught the concept of Merkaba. Mer meaning light, Ka meaning spirit, and Ba meaning body, was combined as one word in order to describe the activation of a multidimensional conscious body that can transcend physicality and time. This is our high-frequency interdimensional vehicle. As we all know, this symbol is not confined to African culture and can be found all over the planet. There are several different ways to interpret any myth or scripture. You can interpret it literally, historically, cosmologically, symbolically, metaphorically, mythologically, allegorically, anatomically, or anagogically. The word anagogical is having to do with ascension and transcendence. One of the key images that you'll find when you start to follow the trail of teachings is the ladder or stairway to heaven. You may have seen this famous painting by William Blake of Jacob's Ladder, the biblical story where Jacob lays his head on a stone, falls into a dream, and sees a ladder to heaven with angels ascending and descending on either side. It's the ultimate metaphor for all of humanity, in which we are the sleepers who have laid our heads down on the stone of earthly life and fallen into the dream. A part of our quest is to wake up from that dream and remember our true nature, realizing that we are not these material beings, but we are immaterial, ethereal, spiritual beings. The next step of the quest would be to link with otherworldly celestial beings who have already accomplished their goal of spiritual advancement and completed the full cycle of earthly evolution. Some of which have come back to assist us in our transformation into celestial beings and help us make it through the gate of the sun. Many of the ancient traditions tell us that the object or goal of our spiritual quest is to pass through the gateway of the sun into the celestial realms. Today, we don't typically think of our sun as a conscious entity or a portal to higher realms, but this was something that the ancient people were quite emphatic about. Siddhartha Gautama, more famously known as the Buddha, was said to be of the Shakya clan. Because of this, he was called the Shakyamuni, which means sage of the Shakyas. The Shakyas were by tradition sun worshippers who called themselves kinsmen of the sun and were said to be of the sun lineage by birth. The ancient Buddhists actually taught that we can connect with these ancient celestial beings through sacred art, hence all of the art that we will find from the ancient world depicting the sun as a portal or gateway, with the Buddha descending from it along with his tribe of awakened beings. Ancient Aliens on the History Channel has become a very popular program over the past decade. It promotes the theory of paleocontact, which is the hypothesis that extraterrestrial visitors came to Earth in ancient times. The theory was first brought forth by a Soviet mathematician named Mikhail Agrest. He believed that rock art, some of which is over 7,000 years old, portrayed alien visitors wearing spacesuits, holding high-tech tools, and emerging from flying devices. The ancient astronaut theory looks for evidence of ancient technology and hardware, which is a very materialistic approach focused mainly on physical subject matter. When you do enough digging, you'll find that there is a whole other branch of evidence and hypothesis coming from a spiritual perspective when it comes to the ancient visitors and human origins. This spiritual aspect is just beginning to get the recognition it deserves, and has even started to be integrated into the Ancient Aliens show. This theory of paleocontact has proven to be very controversial. Skeptics are now claiming that it was the Soviet government that first started promoting the idea in the 1960s during the Cold War. They say it was actually a military psyop designed by the Soviets to attack the Judeo-Christian faith by attempting to convince everyone that the supposed supernatural experience recorded in the Holy Bible involving angels were nothing more than extraterrestrial visitors displaying advanced technology. They believed that this would undermine Western society if they were successful. In retaliation, the US government started promoting its own version of the theory. This was, I believe, being used as a cover-up for the development of a secret space program in both countries. The theory eventually challenged Charles Darwin's theory of evolution when Stephen Jay Gould proposed his theory of punctuated equilibrium, which predicts that a lot of evolutionary change takes place rapidly in short periods of time, followed by long periods of stasis where little or no change occurs. It also claims that some evolution is a direct result of special events that may include intervention in the form of genetic modification. This is opposed to the theory that evolution is a constant, gradual, and natural process. I think it's self-evident that although we share genetic similarities with other species in our genus, our abilities outweigh theirs exponentially. There was a sudden miraculous transition from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens that defies the conventional theory of evolution. There's a missing link between the more ape-like Homo erectus and modern humans. Something activated these capabilities, but what was it? If you look into the ancient traditions of Khem'et, now known as Egypt, you'll find that their answer to the question above is Ptah. Ptah can be seen here wearing his helmet of salvation, a multicolored feather garment, rainbow rings, which is a necklace of immortality, and holding his resurrection stick. Ptah is one of the key figures in the ancient Egyptian mythological system and religion. He was said to be the architect of the heavens and the earth, a master craftsman in working metals, sculptor, designer, and fashioner of the bodies of mankind. He was the master mason, sculptor, and blacksmith of the gods. The ancient Egyptians believed that Ptah came here from the star Sirius and altered our genetics. His hieroglyph is a double helix. Traditional Egyptologists, on the other hand, will tell you that the ancient Egyptians knew nothing about genetics. If Ptah traveled through the cosmos in order to alter our genes, what was his purpose for doing so? The answer may come from this image from the tomb of Nefertari. Here we see a depiction of Nefertari in the afterlife wearing a transparent garment. Ptah is standing in an enclosure in front of a rainbow-colored stairway to heaven, as Nefertari is offering him the Egyptian hieroglyph for new clothes. She's basically giving thanks to Ptah for helping her craft or obtain her new light body, which is symbolized by the transparent clothing she's wearing. Ptah also created all of Egypt's technology. Here's a depiction of Osiris standing on what they called the Ark of Millions of Years, and the Ship of Eternity. The way the Egyptians symbolized the Ship of Eternity looks identical to the way modern science portrays a wormhole. I believe that when we see these Egyptian kings as ascended light beings on top of the Ship of Eternity, they're riding through the stars on these wormholes. If we try to translate some of this symbology into literal scientific ideas, we can see that it may not be as far-fetched as some people claim. The resurrection stick most likely is having something to do with our spinal column. When we look at the Tibetan Buddhism teachings, they refer to this ascension body as the rainbow light body. Some examples of rainbow light practitioners are Jesus, Buddha, Mary Magdalene, Padmasambhava, Shiva, Krishna, Osiris, and Elijah. So, rainbow light body is a title given to spiritual masters who are shining their light for the benefit of all beings. They are examples of how to live in this world in the name of love and compassion. They are true masters of what it means to be human. Over 160,000 rainbow light body cases have been reported all around the world. Practitioners have chosen at the time of their death to turn their energy volume to the maximum. This literally transforms their bodies into pure rainbow light. Their bodies disappear, leaving behind only fingernails, hair, and clothing. During this process, their bodies shrink to the size of a small child or baby. Some disappear completely, leaving nothing of their physical body at all. When a master practitioner leaves their body in this way, it is reported that those in the area see rainbows surrounding the close area, sounds of beautiful music is heard, pleasant smells fill the air, and angelic voices and chanting spontaneously arise. This sounds unbelievable, but this has been reported by eyewitnesses in over 160,000 documented cases from all around the world, mostly in India, Tibet, and China. This type of practice in Tibetan Buddhism is called Dzogchen, the Great Perfection. It is when we deliberately align our energy with the energy of love and appreciation as much as possible, all day, every day. It's important to note that there are many types of people who practice the Great Perfection from all different spiritual traditions. Many of them are not even known, so this is not just monks and yogis that are having these experiences. Ascension is a very broad and complex subject with a lot of history behind it. The concept of ascension has been trending in New Age spirituality for a very long time now. Most people don't realize that the idea of ascension actually goes back to ancient Egypt and even as far back as Sumeria. Zecharia Sitchin proposes that extraterrestrials came to the planet to mine gold, but when you actually get into the Sumerian stories, you find out that these beings were more interested in ascension than they were any material things. Moving forward into the Egyptian civilization, you find stories of people ascending into the heavens on ladders of light, turning themselves into lightning, or light beings, crossing through portals and going into the celestial realms. In ancient Iran, around the time of King Solomon, 900 BC, you start hearing more about what is perceived as a boundary between humans and the celestial realms that is actually permeable. Then in the time of the Essenes, 150 BC, to the time of Jesus, it starts to become firmly established that humans have the ability to transform themselves into what is referred to as celestial flesh. During our earthly life, we have flesh and blood bodies, but in order to cross over the boundary into the celestial realms, we have to somehow transmute our bodies into the flesh of angels. Our modern understanding of this process is progressing. The ancient Egyptians had an advanced spiritual science. They knew that we are all multidimensional beings and each one of our energy bodies must be nurtured and developed. This is why they were buried in a sarcophagus that would fit inside another sarcophagus, and another, and so on, just like Russian dolls. The child king Tutankhamun was buried in as many as 8 coffins. For men and women who were members of the ancient Egyptian elite at the time, 3 or 4 coffins was not unusual. The body was made on the Khem'et, the great potter's wheel. The great potter was of Ta. We were created with the Ka, energy body, and the physical body. Upon our physical birth, these two bodies are joined as one. The heart is a separate entity. It's the essence of life, mind, emotions, and morals. Our heart is Thoth, the great recorder of our lives. It records everything that we experience and feel. It was taught that when a person dies, he goes to be judged. There would be a weighing of the heart ceremony before Osiris' throne. The heart would be weighed on a balance against the feather of truth. If the heart outweighed the feather, the dead person would become reborn and enter the cycle of creation to live another earthly life. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the dead person would become Osiris. So Osiris was a concept that represented the goal of spiritual development. You wanted to become an Osiris so you could have the choice to come back into this world as a pharaoh or a master, or remain in the celestial realms. The deceased person's burial would mimic Osiris's, who was the first to be mummified. They would have the name Osiris placed on their sarcophagus after their own name. They would create amulets that resembled the scarab beetle and place it over the heart of the dead person for protection. They would usually have an inscription on it that basically said, "Please don't tell Osiris what I did." The Ka, or spirit, is the life force of gods and man. The shadow, or the soul, was not bound to the body but could travel at night with the Ba. The Ba is the sum of all immortal forces that make up the personality of the soul. Your personality is eternal. It can leave your body after death and find another vessel. The Ak means the shining one. It's the magical joining of the Ba and the Ka, which would be the ultimate symbol representing the awakened spirit. The ultimate goal of the soul was to become a star in the cosmic ocean of Nun. All gods were described as being an Ak, or a shining one. We don't have to die to do this. We can do this while still being physical. The spiritual science has been deliberately hidden for thousands of years. In my next related video, I'll be outlining the transhumanist agenda, artificial intelligence, and the plan to influence humanity to merge with technology instead of developing our light body to ascend spiritually. Thank you for watching. If you find this video valuable, I hope you'll hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, subscribe to my channel and get notifications for my new uploads. Together we are the 99%. Peace.